Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Coast to Coast. This is your host, Joe Dellera, and I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Andrew O'Connor-Watts. We were missing you last week, man. How are you doing? It's been a crazy couple days in the NBA.
Yeah, what has anything happened since I was last on? What's the deal here? I heard
You're gonna have to leave
got
again.
traded. Yeah, right.
It's been totally crazy lately. Obviously the trade deadline is tomorrow for the NBA, and there's a ton of moving parts. We've already had some blockbuster moves. What was your initial reaction to the Luka Doncic trade? Because that was just preposterous.
Yeah, I think I had a reaction like a lot of people did, which was, did Shams get hacked? I mean, I remember, you were talking about that on your pod. I had the same exact reaction. I sent it to the group chat with you and our buddy Jim Turvey. And I think we were both, all of us were just like, what is going on? I mean, it seemed like a fake. I was making sure it didn't say Shems Charania, or, I was making sure I didn't get Sentelled. But yeah, I mean, it's shocking, truly. I mean, it kind of, yeah. I mean, I'm a little bit realizing, it's finally kind of sunk in, but it took a few days for sure. How about you?
Yeah. No, I mean, I couldn't sleep. I had to do emergency pod on it, and I was like, "This is the craziest trade I've ever seen." My off the cuff thing was this was just a flat out horrific trade. I didn't like it at all, and I was just like, "Oh my god! Like, what are you doing? Like, what do you mean you want to win now? You had like the second best player in the NBA. Like, I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me, like at all." I think the Luka thing was fascinating. It looks like he's going to make his debut on Saturday. So pretty excited about that. Do you have any initial thoughts, on trying to project what the Lakers are going to, not necessarily what they're going to look like, but how are you going to power rate them? I know you're very heavy into modeling. How do you think you're going to project them, and how are you going to model them?
I mean, honestly, it's going to be tough because, a lot of what I do is not necessarily matchup based, like within the model. I kind of go matchup from just the raw stats, if that makes sense. So I'll kind of plug in my, what my numbers, like I have a certain value for Luka Doncic. So that's going to just be added to the Lakers with Anthony Davis subtracted. And I think that will be substantial. In that first game, I'm probably, depending on the line, I'll probably be looking to fade the Lakers. I think there'll be some growing pains there. That said, the Lakers have looked incredible. I mean, the last 10, they're one of the best teams in the last 10 games. They have I think it was the second best defense. I don't know. Our Jim, again, shout out Jim one more time. He tweeted out about the top 3 defenses in the last, I think it was 10 games. And it was, in some order, Blazers, Lakers, and Raptors, which shocking. But yeah, I mean, I think, I think my initial reaction in terms of matchup and play, there's a little redundancy there with LeBron and his skill set, and a little bit of, lacking in defense and front court size and strength. But I mean, the actual talent and offensive talent specifically is undeniable. They're going to be a thing of beauty to watch offensively.
Yeah, and I mean, they just beat the Clippers last night without really a big. They had Jackson Hayes there. It sounds like they did acquire Maxi Kleber, so it's not like they didn't get any bigs back. Kleber is a pretty soft big, like realistically in terms of what he does, but definitely curious to see how this works out. I wonder if Kleber is even going to play a game. I know he did the presser with Luka. He's showing off the jersey. That might literally be the only jersey that's ever produced for Maxi Kleber ever. And like he might be shipped off to like Shanghai or something after this. So I'm very curious to see what happens with that team, with that game. And, we got a comment over here. I'm looking and I see somebody said that they have Luka and De'Aaron Fox on their fantasy team. Not really sure how to feel. So I know Fox is supposed to make his debut tonight, and we'll talk about that game a little bit more. But did you have any thoughts about the trade itself that sent De'Aaron Fox to the San Antonio Spurs? And we'll talk about a little bit more of the specific betting angles for this game a little bit later in the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think my initial thought was kind of no-brainer win for the Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
The Bulls, I don't know what they're doing, but yeah, from a Spurs perspective, and even for the Kings to a degree, I can kind of see why the Kings did it. If they're looking to get rid of Fox, Levine isn't and Picks isn't a bad return. But in terms of, I did have my buddy did bring up one interesting question, which was just about the idea of paying De'Aaron Fox when you have Wemby. So, and just wondering if are they going to have to give him a max? And if so, is that worth it? And does that actually kind of maybe tie them up a little bit? What are your thoughts on that idea?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the issue with Fox, and one of the biggest concerns with him, had he stayed in Sacramento, I don't think he was going to make All NBA this year. So he wasn't going to be eligible for like the super max, right? But now that he was traded, he essentially really isn't going to be eligible for the supermax. And I think that helps San Antonio, because they aren't going to get hamstrung with that, the secondary supermax, right? So Fox already signed the first one. Now he would be on his second one, and they aren't really going to get stuck with that. I think that this team is young. They have a lot of young talent. Wemby will obviously have to get paid at some point, but to me, I thought it was just a clear upgrade. You didn't have to give up Devin Vassell. You didn't have to give up Jeremy Sohan, and you were able to add in De'Aaron Fox, a player that wants to be there, that wants to play with Victor. I think that's huge. So this to me was a home run trade for the Spurs. And I understand that, we the Levine DeRozan pairing is questionable, I think, especially knowing that we've seen it before, right? Yeah. I think you just have to look at it from an individual talent perspective and just say, look, they got Zach LaVine and picks for De'Aaron Fox. I'm not super certain that De'Aaron Fox is like an enormous upgrade from Zach LaVine. They have slightly different skill sets, obviously. I have questions about the fit right now, but you never know. Maybe they're going to move somebody else by the deadline. We still have a lot of moves that can still be made. So LaVine's supposed to play today. We'll talk a little bit more about that impact a little bit later in the show, but just a really fascinating move all around here, and all these pieces moving around. I think that Sacramento probably makes another move. The Bulls seem like they want to make another move. The Spurs are probably good at this point. And then you have a litany of other teams, whether it's the Miami Heat, the Golden State Warriors, the Knicks are apparently in some trade talks right now. Denver Nuggets are rumored to be involved in a couple things. Milwaukee is involved. So Phoenix obviously as well. Do you think that Kevin Durant gets moved? He seems to be the other big piece there. I struggle to see a scenario where you'd want to give up Kevin Durant. I don't think you'd ever want to give up Kevin Durant, but it sounds like that might be something that's going to happen in the next, say, not even 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of heard that, that he was batted around to the Warriors, and then he immediately said no, thank you. I mean, the Warriors at this point are just looking, batting their eyes at anyone. It seems like they're like the last dude in the bar, just trying to, pick someone up for the night, and just real desperate at this point.
Yeah. Getting gross.
I wonder if they could have maybe even, as terrible as it seems like Nico Harrison handled the Luka Doncic trade, I wonder if maybe the Warriors could have taken a little bit out of Nico Harrison's, at least his secrecy playbook, in the sense of maybe you don't need to let everybody know every single player you're interested in.
Yeah.
It's just coming across as a little bit weird at this point. But I mean, yeah. So you asked about Kevin Durant specifically. I mean, yeah, I don't understand why you necessarily need to move him. I mean, they were trying to get Bradley Beal out of there. And with his no trade clause, they kind of pivoted to Durant. I've heard rumor of Jimmy for Durant. Jimmy's obviously another person that's been kind of batted around all over the place. It seems like it seems like a difficult kind of, like you said, I don't really understand why they would do it, unless they get some sort of, nice package in return. I'm intrigued by a Denver. I don't know that would ever happen, but a Michael Porter Jr., Zeke Naji, and, Strother or someone like that. And then whatever picks need to be involved. But I just don't know that would really realistically happen. I would like to see it. Not sure that that's really something that will happen.
Yeah, and then obviously the other trade that happened today was the Kyle Kuzma trade, and
Yeah.
Kuzma goes to the Milwaukee Bucks. It did get them under the cap the way that this trade kind of worked, so they have a little bit more flexibility. There's a couple more things they can do. To me, this is I, I think this is Milwaukee just saying, Middleton's washed. He's not even mid
Yep.
anymore.
Yeah.
It's over, and they're
Nice.
trying to do what they can do. I, I wouldn't be shocked if Kuzma is moved by the deadline again and flipped
Ooh.
once more. I
Ooh.
wouldn't be totally shocked. Kuzma's actually on a very interesting contract because it declines in
Yeah.
value. So I think it actually is the contract's getting more valuable to teams as it gets shorter and as he gets further along in the contract. I'm not certain that this is really a winning move. I don't think that this is improving Milwaukee that dramatically, if at all. To me, it's a nothing.
Yeah.
It's more of a we need to just wait and see what else they may or may not do.
I think that that was how I felt. The more I'm thinking about it, though, I do actually think it's kind of a clear, like, base hit. Like, I don't think it's a home run, obviously. But I think it's like a pretty clear base hit, solid move, just because of what you said about his contract diminishing, it being tradable. Like, when I first saw that trade go down, I was like, oh, that's bad. And then I looked at his contract and it's like he's making what, 23 million this year, and then it diminishes from there. So, and whereas Middleton was in the 30s somewhere, I don't remember exactly. So if we are to assume that Middleton is in fact washed, then I do think this is just kind of a no-brainer, solid like B move for them, given the fact that it does give them cap flexibility, and he's going to kind of immediately impact at least the offensive end somewhat. I don't have a lot of, faith in him being a overly impactful player long term or for a championship team, but I just think it's like a solid B move for them.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Like no notes, pretty much. Like we'll see what else happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all right, so the trade deadline is obviously the thing that's looming ahead of us, and that's going to impact a lot of these different matchups that we've seen either both today, tomorrow, and there's a lot of players in and out, a lot of injuries that are being floated around here, like same day injuries where they're saying like, oh, this guy's downgraded, and then they're saying, oh, it's an injury, now it's personal, what is it exactly? So definitely something to keep an eye on, and it makes it a little bit more volatile right now between today and tomorrow. But let's turn to the slate. I think that we have a pretty compelling slate today. A lot of interesting games, a lot of center props coming up for us today. What do you think? Let's start with Milwaukee, because Milwaukee obviously just made this move. You don't have Middleton, who is one of the. It's interesting because Middleton was like one of the longest tenured players with any team in the NBA. Coming into this season, coming into this trade deadline, and you trade him. Now you have Milwaukee as a 10.5-point favorite against the Charlotte Hornets, and they had a massive punt versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. It looks like Dame's going to play, Bobby Portis going to play, Giannis going to play, Brooke I think is going to play as well. What do you think about this? What do you think about this game? What do you think about this line?
Yeah, I bet the Bucks minus 8.5. I like it at 10.5, 11, whatever it's at right now. I really do like this, pretty much down to, I would say, minus 14.5 in that range. Even, like, honestly, I think this is going to be a big win for the Bucks, big statement win. We've seen these teams that have made these trades, like the Lakers, the Dallas Mavericks. For the Mavericks, they punted that first game post Luka news. Everyone sat. They got annihilated by the Cavs. And then next game back, they cover a 4-point spread against the Sixers with Embiid. With the Lakers, we saw them absolutely destroy the Clippers last night. Wish I knew they were going to play with that intensity before I bet the Clippers. But hey, you watch from this is, like I said, that kind of motivational edge. I think these teams that are making these trades get kind of like, there's kind of a sense of like invigoration. Like, all right, yeah, we're doing stuff. I expect that from this Bucks team. They totally punted. They got destroyed against OKC. I think they're going to come back and just destroy the Hornets. I think this is a clear, 15-point win at least. And yeah, I'll lay the points with the Cavs, with the Bucks.
No, I like it too. I think this is a great spot. I was looking at Mark Williams props. Mark Williams has been my absolute fucking wagon, and
Boy.
I think I'm gonna have to pass here.
Okay.
I think this is a really tough matchup for him. The one concern that I have about Mark, and honestly, like whenever I like a player, like I like betting on their props, I think I have a good read on them. When they miss, I want them to miss like abysmally. I don't really want to play the under because I think that he has so much ceiling, especially with the amount of usage that he can get in Charlotte right now. But I'm so concerned about the fouls. You've got Giannis is just a freight train coming in, and then Brook will get you into some foul trouble because he'll box you out with no intention of grabbing the rebound. It's one of those things that you've noticed, like if you watch Brook Lopez play, he boxes out. He doesn't give a shit if he gets that rebound. He's just like, I don't care. Like, I know that I'm doing my job. Giannis can get the rebound. It doesn't really matter. But I think it's frustrating because then you have these players that just have no opportunity to get the board, right? So I'm very concerned about foul trouble with him, and that's kind of why I want to stay away from this. LaMelo is obviously out. Micic is out. You could maybe look at like a Miles Bridges type of thing, either like rebounds or assists or RA. I just don't love the spot, especially if it is a blowout. This game could really go sideways for Charlotte in a hurry. But let's look at the next game on the slate. We've got the Cleveland Cavaliers against the Detroit Pistons. They ruled out Donovan Mitchell after he was downgraded midday, and the Cavs are now 6-point favorites. If we look at the injury report overall, Donovan Mitchell's out, Isaac Okoro's out, and Dean Wade is out, right? Probably the best D Wade to ever wear a Cavaliers uniform. For the Detroit Pistons, they're obviously still without Jaden Ivey, but for the most part, this is a pretty healthy team going into this game. What do you think about the spot? The spread has kind of ballooned a little bit, which I was surprised that, we went from the opener at 4.5 to 6, even without Donovan Mitchell. What do you think about this game? Do you have a side? Do you have a money line? What are we looking at here?
So I do think it went to 3.5, if I'm not mistaken, post Donovan news. But I did before the news and even now, I think it's 3.5. I do like just like a little play on the Pistons money line. Just it's obviously a little bit less valuable now that we know that Mitchell's out, but there is a fun little trend that I was kind of following along here. That if you look, so basically if you take road favorites on a back-to-back playing their third and fourth nights, which the Cavs are, if you bet if you fade them on the money line, that's 157, 241 and 0 for 39% hit rate, but 6% ROI. This season, it's 12 and 15 for a 20% ROI. So I do think that's kind of a fun little, less of a sprinkle, I guess, now that the odds are a little bit shorter. I think you could even maybe just go with the points with the Pistons here. But I wouldn't make this like a huge play just because the combination of Garland, Mobley, and Allen, and Mitchell included in that, the 3-man combos of all of those guys has been really, really strong this year. So it's kind of why I wanted to go money line rather than spread, just because I do think that there's a little bit more value there, because I think there's a chance the Cavs could just still win this by 10 even without Mitchell. But so yeah, I'd rather go with a little bit less exposure, higher upside with money line.
No, I like that. I think it kind of just captures the point that you're getting at, where you're saying, look, if this breaks the way that I want it to, I think they're just going to win. And I think that's kind of an important thing to look at. One of the plays that I was looking at was Cade Cunningham under, I'm seeing 43. I'm even seeing some 44s in the market for under 44.5 PRA. Just it's a really high line, man. I know that he's been really good, honestly, over his last 10, averaging. He's gone over this in 6 of his last 10, and really it's really 6 of his last 8. But he's averaging 43.3 over this 10-game sample size, right? But on the season, he's only hitting this 35% of the time, and he's never hit it against the Cavs. He's literally 0 for 11 on 44.5. He's 0 for 11 on 43.5. He's got 2 games in the 40s. So I just think the line is a bit high here. I know that he's been hot. I know that this is a spot for Detroit. I'm kind of holding off in a way because of the way you're capping this game, and you like Detroit here. But if you do like Cleveland, I don't think that Cade like under the 44.5 PRA is bad. I think the line is too high. I think we've kind of got lost in the sauce here with Cade a bit, as good as he's been, and he's the leading and most improved. He's really good, but I really struggle to see him hitting this type of line. Like this is the type of line for like a Jokic or like a Sabonis type of guy that's going to really, really rack up the stats all the way around the board. So that was what I was looking at for Cavs Pistons.
I like that. Part of the reason I like that is that it's kind of Donovan Mitchell proof, right? It's like, if anything, it's maybe better with Mitchell out because there's going to be someone else out there that's, instead of Mitchell taking up his minutes, that is probably going to be better at defense than Mitchell will be.
That's honestly what I was thinking about too.
Yeah. And not to mention, I'm looking at all of my rhythm models right now are popping for the under for the full game total. So if we're thinking that this is a full game under, it isn't like green light, go bet the mortgage on the under. So it is still kind of the caution under sign, but all of them are saying under for my rhythm models. So and actually my own personal model as well is looking pretty good for an under. So I like that under for Cade specifically as well.
All right, we might have to add it in here. So let's turn to the game where we know we're going to have one of the big pairings and one of the big trade acquisitions, and we're looking at the San Antonio Spurs versus the Atlanta Hawks. The Spurs have said that De'Aaron Fox is going to be available today. We've seen this line kind of trickle towards the Spurs. We're seeing Spurs -4.5. Chris Paul will also be available today. For Atlanta, they're missing a bunch of guys. Bogdanovich is out. Clint Capella is out. Probably he's going to get traded. Jalen Johnson's out really for the rest of the season. Trae Young is going to be playing. When you looked at this game and you were trying to cap this, were you just instantly drawn to the new look Spurs?
Not necessarily. This is honestly more of an anti-Hawks thing. In fact, the new look Spurs is a little bit giving me some pause. I think I don't love backing teams when it's their first game bringing in a high usage player, someone like De'Aaron Fox. Why I do still like it though for the Spurs side is that I think Fox is going to be kind of a plug and play kind of dude for the Spurs. I don't think there's going to be a ton of growing pains there. Obviously, some to a degree, just getting comfortable. I think if anything, that might be more on the defensive end, but then you have Wemby cleaning up all the defensive mistakes you could possibly care for. So if anything, like I said, that was kind of where I was pausing. But for me, this is the Hawks who have played a few games in a row now and will be without a shooter in Bogdanovich, some rim protection with Capella, and their big wing in Jalen Johnson, who's out for the season. So I'm fine laying the points with the Spurs. Kind of separate from the new look, but I also do think that the new look with Fox will be, if anything, fun and at worst, I think manageable.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things when you bring in a guy like De'Aaron Fox, who is used to commanding a pretty significant amount of usage, he's a point guard, so he's naturally going to have the ball in his hands a lot. I do think that there is this thought, right, that it's going to eat into a lot of the usage around the rest of the team. And while I think that that's probably somewhat accurate, I would imagine that Chris Paul gets the biggest cut. And then you're going to also see Stephon Castle see a pretty significant cut, and maybe a little bit more around the wings, like a little bit less for Keldon Johnson, whatever. The one guy I don't think is going to be super impacted is Victor Wembanyama, because I don't think that De'Aaron Fox, after saying, I want to go play with Victor, is going to not pass Victor the ball. So to me, I think this is a Wemby spot. I like Wemby over. I grabbed it at 23.5 last night, and I gave it out in the huddle. It's at 24 earlier today. We gave it out there, and there's still some 24s in the market, but it's actually, I'm seeing even 25.5 right now, but I like the 24.5. I am fetching it from, let me get it for you guys. So that way you know where exactly to go look for this. I'm seeing 24.5 at MGM has it. And it looks like MGM might be the only book, and ESPN has 24.5. So do with that what you will, right? I love the spot for Wemby. It's a pace up spot against Atlanta. They don't have some of their better defenders in, like Jalen Johnson. They don't have Clint Capella. Not that he's a good defender, but he's at least a physical big down in the interior. And Wemby has just cooked Atlanta. He scored 21, 26, and 42 points against them, with the 42 coming this season. So I think the Fox is going to, maybe cut into some of the usage all around. But even if you don't know the playbook, you know what the one play every point guard in the world probably knows is just throw it to Wemby. Like, he's going to get the ball. He's going to cash it in. So I like Wemby over 23.5 points here in this game against the Hawks. Let's turn to the Grizzlies versus the Raptors. The Raptors right now are pretty significant dogs here. We're seeing like plus 10.5 for the home dog here. Desmond Bane is out for Memphis. We're also seeing Brandon Clark is available. Zach Edey is available. Marcus Smart is available. Vince Williams Jr. is available. So that's pretty notable. For Toronto, RJ Barrett's out. Chris Boucher is in. Jakob Poeltl is out. Emmanuel Quickley is also out. When you saw this game, I know I was drawn immediately to a player prop, and the guy that I was looking at was Zach Edey. His line has come down a bit since when I bet it earlier, but I still, honestly, I like it. I was trying to read into the injury reports a little bit, thinking that maybe Memphis wouldn't play Brandon Clark, given the fact that this is a matchup they should win. But either way, Zach Edey's getting to play the Raptors. He's from Canada. I think there's some 17.5s in the market for 17.5 PR. I grabbed it at 18.5. I would play even double here. I really like the spot. There's no Poeltl for them. And he's just been cooking lately. He's hit this in 5 of his last 6 games. And when he played the Raptors earlier in the season, 21 points, 16 rebounds in 27 minutes. If this game does become a blowout, I think that just means Edey is probably going to actually play a little bit more and get some of those minutes in, get some of those reps in. I like Edey today against the Raptors, against his home country. I think it's going to be a spot where he's pretty comfortable, and they just really don't have a lot of interior talent to bother him or really slow him down on both the offensive side or the defensive glass. So I'm on Zach Edey. I have over 18.5 PR.
Yeah, I love that play. Honestly, I didn't really have anything in this. I mean, I'm more, sides and totals. You're a great prop better. But when you showed me this in our chat, I think it was, and yeah, that just immediately popped for me. He's a guy that, like you said, he'll still play if it's a blowout, but also he is a guy that even when it's not a blowout, he'll cook these bad teams. He specifically cooks against the bad teams. Now, you could argue that the Raptors maybe are not as bad as their record would show. However, they don't have Poeltl, as you mentioned, no RJ and no Quickley. So without those 3 guys that are pretty important to what they do, at least defensively, I think this is a great opportunity for Edey to do, to get over that line, that PR line.
I think it's a good spot. I know sometimes, like, you hate to see the line move against you. It's never ideal, but sometimes that's just the way it works with the way the injury reports are. So I kind of read this one a little bit wrong, but sometimes it just happens. It is what it is. The next game we have is the Wizards versus the Nets in the game of the century here. Obviously, the Wizards were just involved in a number of different, kind of like blockbuster trades. Let's put it that way, right? The Nets are 4-point favorites. The Wizards are going to be without Kyle Kuzma, who just got traded, Jonas Valanciunas. Alex Sarr, I guess, was making his return today. The Nets are without Bogdanovich. Nick Claxton's available, but Noah Clowney's out. DeAnthony Melton's out. Cam Thomas is out. Trendon Watford's out, etc. What do you think about this game? Is there anything that you like in what might be the game that's maybe least watched of all the games in the slate today?
I was thinking about this game. I mean, this is a tough one, man. It's just like you said, man. It's kind of a basement battle here. I would say that one play that kind of intrigued me though is I believe we do have Cam Johnson back and Ben Simmons back.
Yeah,
but even with that, I kind of think the team total is a little bit high for the Nets. I believe it's at 111, which
high.
That's high. Like this is a team that has gone under their team total in every single one of their last 10 home games. They have not gone over their team total number in a single one. Now, if you just look at both home and away, 3 and 7 to the over. So the under is 7 and 3. And, look, obviously the Wizards don't have the greatest defense in the world. In fact, I believe they might have the worst defense in the league. But, we've seen that when the Nets win games, it tends to be lower scoring games. They tend to do so when they're kind of more locked in on the defensive end. They're never going to blow you out with a lot of points scored. So yeah, I'm curious your thought because I haven't bet this, but I kind of like it. What do you think about an under for team total for the Nets?
I think it does make a little bit of sense here. The biggest thing is that, Washington plays at the 4th fastest pace, but Brooklyn plays at the literal slowest pace in the league. So I think it's entirely possible this game gets kind of dragged down into the mud and it becomes a little bit of a slog. And if it does, then that I think that's definitely helpful for Brooklyn here.
Yeah.
The one play that I was on, I grabbed Bilal Coulibaly over 22.5 PRA. He's hit that in 7 straight games without Kyle Kuzma. So it's kind of bounced around. I think the market is kind of settled at 22.5 right now. Either way, I think it does kind of align here. We're seeing, Rhythm has a projection slightly like right around the number here. And, some of the things that Rhythm has, obviously, like it's telling us, like, use a little bit of caution. And I think that's fair. It's a little tougher sometimes to use your projections, to use your modeling when there is like a big swing like this where you don't have a guy like Kyle Kuzma. So the fact that I'm looking at what his hit rate is on the line without Kuzma, I'm looking at the matchup, I'm looking at some of the different scenarios. I don't mind grabbing the over 22.5 for the PRA. But that's enough from the Wizards versus the Nets. Let's look at the Heat versus the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers are 1-point home dogs in this spot. It is a game that they're going to be without a couple of different players. Miami's still without Jimmy Butler, and he's really the main guy that they're going to be worried about missing today. And for Philadelphia, Andre Drummond's out. Joel Embiid is out. Jerry McCain obviously still remains out. Paul George I think he's questionable last I saw. I'm not sure if they updated it yet. I know that he was going to go through shoot around, but whatever. I mean, I'm so upset. All I want to do is bet Joel Embiid unders against Bam Adebayo, and I just can't do it. He just continually gets ruled out. Of course he played last night against Daniel Gafford. Of course he's sitting today against Bam Adebayo. Like, just of course, right? Is there anything that drew you to this game in Philadelphia?
There is. We also, real quick, I just got a notification saying that Giannis is scratched. So,
oh man,
yeah.
Took so Mark Williams.
Yeah, let's go. All right. Yeah. Man. All right, we can get back to that later. But yeah, so Philly. I was looking over this game because I didn't think either of us had anything. I can't. Correct me if I'm wrong on your end, but
no, I don't have anything.
Yeah, so I was digging into this Philly-Miami game, and the team total over really popped for me for Philly, actually. So the last time they played was November 18th. Miami blew them out, 106-89. Now, okay, 89, not a lot of points, not good for a team total over. At that point in time, we were still pretty early on in the Embiid knee, not going to play ever, apparently. So Philly's offensive rating was just 104.2. That was last in the league at that point. And on the flip side, Miami's defense was 11th at 111.5. So, but since then, both teams have kind of gone in opposite directions, right? We've had the Jimmy Butler saga, kind of endless. Last 10 games, specifically, Philly 118.6 offensive rating. That's 8th. And Miami, 118 defensive rating, which is 24th in the last 10 games. So now this is a back-to-back for both teams. That might not necessarily bode well for scoring. But if we look at Philly, they're 4-3-1 to the team total over on the second night of a back-to-back, and 10-5-1 to the over on the season as a home dog. So on top of that, they've scored 110 plus in 6 of their last 9 games. And in all 3 of the times where they scored less than 109, or rather 110, the line is at 109.5, at least where I bet it. Every single one of those 3 unders was they scored 109 points. So they're getting close. The offense is cooking. The total for the game has risen since open. So people, sharps are on the over. I love over 109.5 for the team total in Philly.
All right, we're on it. I love it. This Philadelphia team has been pretty scrappy lately, so I really do think that this is a fine play. They've been doing enough, and you almost have to wonder, is Paul George going to mess with the mojo now that he's coming back today? So have to keep an eye on that. The next game we have is the Bulls versus the Wolves. There's no Dante DiVincenzo, no Julius Randle. He's going to be out for the next couple of weeks here. Lonzo Ball is also out. Kevin Huerter is not going to play. Trey Jones is not going to play. Did you have anything in this game? Because when I was looking at this spot, the only thing that I could think about was Rudy Gobert, because he's my guy. And I was waiting for this prop. I didn't know when we were going to get it, or if I was going to get it. But Rudy Gobert, his points plus rebounds line is set at I think it's 24.5 now. And let's see. Yes, 24.5 now. And I know that the under is something that people are looking at because he hasn't been as good. He's been fantastic in this spot against Vucevic. And I know that Vuce, maybe gets traded between now and tip. Well, and then that kind of messes with the cap maybe. But at the same time, he's just been absolutely cooking him. So I gave this out at 23.5 in the huddle. It moved up almost like right away to 24.5. I think that's okay. But he's hit this in 11 consecutive games against Vooch in his career. And he's hit this in 14 of 15 games against Vooch when he's played 30 plus minutes. There's only been one game that he has, and he played 16. It's too low. And earlier this season, when these two teams met, he actually didn't double-double, which was a rarity. It was the first time since 2020 that he didn't get a double-double, but he put up 21 and 9. So he still had 30 PR. And he's averaging 32.8 points plus rebounds in 6 matchups over the past few seasons. So to me, this is one of those spots where the individual history matchup aligns with the matchup itself. And the Bulls have just been a total sieve to centers. It's one of the best matchups you can have in the league. Couple it with the fact that Chicago plays at the 3rd fastest pace in the NBA. I like him to go over 24.5 PR, and I sprinkled 30 plus at plus 300 at DraftKings a little bit earlier today as well. So give me all the Gobert props. Give me the golden French fry today.
Love it. Yeah. No, I don't really have anything in this game. I mean, I lean towards the Bulls, to be honest, just because of Minnesota being kind of banged up without their pieces. Those pieces you mentioned, Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle, both former Knicks. Shout out to Leon Rose for trading those guys, I guess. We miss you, Devo. I don't mean it. But yeah, I would say Chicago or nothing for me, and I just don't really feel like betting Chicago. The smart move would be for Chicago to lay down, but they've kind of shown continually that they don't like doing the smart move. They refuse. Yeah. So I hear people do like a handicap and they're like, Chicago should tank. And it's like, oh yeah, no, they should. But absolutely. But that doesn't mean they're going to.
And I think that's one of the problems with Chicago. Like, they just have no idea. There's really just no direction. And the fact that they really brought back no first round picks is insane. And I thought the part that was actually, I think, the craziest about it was they got back their own pick, right? The pick was top 10 protected. So they brought back their own pick that was top 10 protected. Right now on Tankathon, they're projected to have the 8th pick. They're going to keep their pick anyway. So just
So stupid.
lunacy in my opinion from Chicago. I just think it was an absolutely just like atrocious decision over there. So,
Yeah.
it is what it is. You can lead a horse to water, right? Um,
Yeah.
but let's turn to the next game. We've got the Warriors versus the Jazz. The Warriors are obviously very involved in the trade market right now. Lauri Markkanen just got ruled out due to injury management about like 30 seconds ago. So we're hitting you with that breaking news. The Warriors are -6 right now. Draymond Green is listed as probable. Jonathan Kuminga is out. Moses Moody is out. Wiggins is probable. Kevon Looney is listed as available. Utah, Taylor Hendricks is out. Jalen Hood-Schifino is out. Lauri Markkanen is out. Sexton's out. PJ Tucker is out. Cody Williams is also out. I had nothing in this game. I don't know if you lean any particular way, but Utah has been feisty, and I just don't know what to think about the Golden State Warriors right now. I feel like the vibes are probably pretty bad with all the trade talk that's going on.
Yeah, the vibes don't seem great. Honestly, I would lean to the Jazz for that reason. Plus the Jazz, I talked about this in our first episode of the Jazz's injury patterns, right? So their form of tanking is they sit their guys against the bad teams so that they lose those games too. And then they play their guys against the good teams because they're going to lose anyways.
Yeah.
So Lowry playing kind of signals to me that the Jazz are like, we might beat the Warriors if Lowry plays.
Yeah.
So that's definitely not a good sign for the Warriors. And I think the Warriors know that, like based on our previous conversation where they're just looking anywhere they can for someone to pair with Steph. But it's not looking great. I would honestly lean to the Jazz here because I just think this is a kind of a letdown. No guys for the Lowry out, Colin Sexton out. But, maybe we look at like one of the one-off guys like Sensabaugh or someone like that props, but that's more your direction. I think we could leave this one alone.
Yeah, I'm not itching to bet on this game. And for what it's worth, my rhythm model has both of these. I've got two different ones, and it's all over the Jazz, even at +5.5. Yeah. So I'm showing like an 11% difference to market. So I'm gonna, if I had to do anything, I'm gonna follow this. I'm gonna follow what my model is telling me. Finally, we got a couple more games on the slate, but we got the Pelicans versus the Nuggets. The Nuggets are 10-point favorites or 11-point favorites now. It's kind of crept up and bounced around over here, but there's still a double-digit favorite. Brandon Ingram's out. Daniel Tice just got traded. DeJounte Murray is out. Julian Watson's out. Westbrook's out. To me, I'm going right back to the well with Nikola Jokic. I'm on over 10.5 dimes, and it's pretty juiced. But either way, I think I'm fine with it. I was on triple-double last time. He got that. He racked up like 4 right at the end. And I know that this line is kind of bounced around to 11.5 at plus money. What I would do is I would bet it to maybe win 1 unit at plus money as opposed to, just betting like a full unit, whatever. The thing about last game is he had 10 dimes, but he had 24 potentials. So he actually is due for a little bit of positive regression in the assist department. This is not a good New Orleans Pelicans team. They're going to be even thinner at the center position. I think that you could definitely see Jokic having a monster game here. Is there anything that you are drawn to in this match between the Pelicans and the Nuggets?
I mean, I was on that, the Jokic prop in their previous matchup that you kind of directed me towards. I thought that was a great look. I think it's a good look tonight too, but I don't have anything besides that. I was batting around the idea of like a Pelicans money line just as like a revenge angle kind of thing, but I don't need to get involved with that.
Yeah, so, you're like, I don't need it.
Yeah, no, definitely not. It's not something I feel strongly about. The way we were talking about that Pistons money line bet. So
so I know that you do feel strongly about the next game, which is the Suns versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. Key to this game is obviously, there's a lot of turmoil over Kevin Durant. He's listed as doubtful. The Thunder are -13 here. Oklahoma City has said that Jalen Williams is going to play, and Kevin Durant is doubtful. Like I said, where are you going with this game?
Yeah, I mean, give me the Thunder laying the points here. I'm going kind of chalky today. I had a couple dogs in our last episode. But I'm going chalk here with the Thunder. They're just, kind of what I mentioned before, or what you mentioned with the Suns being in turmoil. I don't want any part of the Suns. It would be OKC or nothing. In this case, I actually really think this is a good spot for OKC. They're not the type of team to lay down and just roll over against these bad teams. Sometimes you have the complacency game with elite teams playing a team undermanned like the Suns are likely to be tonight. But I have a couple systems that kind of, speak to that not being the case. So Thunder, let me see if I can bring it up here. Thunder laying 9 or more points are 12-8-1 this season for 14% ROI. They're 28-19-1. I believe that's under Dagnall. That might just be, actually, no, that's the last 2 years. So we know that they handle these teams well. This is also actually like a pretty bad spot specifically for the Suns, who are in their 4th road game. And if you fade teams playing their 4th road game, that's 244, 210, and 8 for a 54% all time, or since 2004, I should say. And if you look at just this season, fading teams in that spot is 47, 35, and 2 against the spread for a 9% ROI. That's not team specific. That's just obviously against all teams. And then if we look at Thunder against the West since the 2021 season, they're 57, 35, and 2. That's 62% hit rate and 18% ROI, 9 and 7 this season. So just a lot of reasons to like the Thunder and to not like the Suns. I think you can bet this. I got -12. I think you could bet it down to, I think this is like in the -15. Like, I think they're going to win by 15 or more in this case.
I think this is a smash spot. Again, like the vibes have got to be awful right now in Phoenix. Bradley Beal doesn't want to waive his no trade clause. Kevin Durant's like, I don't want to go to the Warriors. Like, what are you talking about? So it seems brutal over there. I like Isaiah Hartenstein over 11.5 rebounds. And I also built out double-double. I kind of just split it between both. I kept waffling between them. He's averaging 11.7 points and 12.4 rebounds per game, double-double in 62% of games this season. So I was able to get the rebounds line and the double-double line both at plus money. So I thought that was important. And then obviously the history against the Suns is just totally irrelevant. Different personnel, different role, different rotation, whatever. In one game against Nick Richards earlier this season, which obviously was a little bit different too, different teams there, he still had 12 points and 15 rebounds in a double-double effort. So I'm with you. I think the Thunder really take care of business here. And I think Hartenstein is always a critical part of that success. The other thing is too, I feel like Oklahoma City generally plays their rotations, even in a blowout, they'll play their rotations like truly for at least 3 quarters, sometimes the beginning of the 4th quarter, and then they pull everybody. So I think that's important to kind of note and to keep an eye on. It should keep Hartenstein getting enough minutes here.
Even if they don't, though, like they have good backup guys. Like Aaron Wiggins dropped like 42 the other night, just out of nowhere, So yeah, I even if it is a blowout, I think they're not a team that lets up on the gas. Like they kind of mess around first half, but second half they really kick into gear. I was playing around the idea of like a first half Phoenix full game Thunder, but it just was not worth. I think it was like plus 500. That's just not enough to get me involved. If that was like plus 900, I'd be interested. But
you're like, I just don't need to go there.
No.
And then finally, we've got the Magic versus the Kings, and this is a game where Zach LaVine looks like he is on track to play in this spot. Jalen Suggs is listed as doubtful. Mo Wagner is out again, still obviously, and the Kings are 5.5 point favorites. New look, old look with Zach LaVine over there. Is there anything that you were targeting in this game, or do you have any thoughts on which way that you maybe wanted to go?
Bulls West, baby. No, I don't have a play in this one, but I was kind of like batting around the idea of the Magic. They're just so bad on the road. So it's really hard to kind of like, and they've just been terrible. I mean, they're really not good since Paolo's gotten back. I think I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but like I think it's like 2-15 or something. I
They're
can't
not
remember
good.
what.
Yeah.
It's not good. I mean, that might be against the spread, but there was just a little too much going on here. Like I had a couple systems fading teams in their fourth road game that I mentioned for that applied to the Thunder against the Suns, applies here for the Kings against the Magic. However, we have the Kings coming off a long road trip. They're finally home after playing a couple games, out and about. And, as we know that can be kind of a complacency spot. And then another one that's a little bit more, one that I don't take too much stock in, but it is notable, I think, is the ATS losing streak versus ATS winning streak, which is basically teams that have, I mean, it's exactly what it sounds like. Teams on a winning streak versus a losing streak. The losing streak team is actually 30-24 this season against the spread for 6% ROI, and it's a 10% ROI trend for the whole, back as far back as SI Sports Insights goes, which is 2004. So It's kind of like tough to say. I would say maybe fading, maybe a team total under for the Magic, but didn't have anything exactly. Do you have anything? I know you have a prop here, but do you have any thoughts on like a side or total here?
I think both of these teams kind of suck right now. So if anything, maybe an under. I think it could get a little wonky for Sacramento in terms of what their offense is going to look like. But I took Sabonis under 19.5 points. That was really only available like for a brief amount of time this morning. 18.5 still in the market. I like the under 18.5. I just think the line's a little too high. You obviously are bringing in Zach LaVine. Sabonis should be the fourth option on offense, if anything, right now. And then they don't really have a true point guard on the roster. I think it makes it a little bit more difficult to get him the ball. And then Orlando's just a bad matchup too. They allow the third fewest points in the paint. They limit second chance opportunities and the offensive board. So that's where Sabonis does a lot of damage on the offensive side of the ball. They're pretty healthy. And I know that the results just have not been ideal, but given the fact that Suggs is doubtful, I think that makes the matchups for like Monk, LaVine, and DeRozan a lot better as opposed to Domantas Sabonis. So I'm going to go under 18.5 points here for Sabonis. So that's the slate, but let's get into our parlay of the day. And, we're going to take a look. We're going to combine a bunch of our plays here. We've got a look here for the parlay at Oklahoma City -12, Isaiah Hartenstein over 11.5 rebounds, the Spurs money line, Wemby over his points. That's live right now, so you catch a live line. Edey over his PR and Jokic over his assist line. And that's what we're looking at for our parlay of the day. And overall, we've got a ton of plays out here. I'm not sure. There's a couple people in the audience. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions that they want us to get to before we get everybody out of here. I know that we got a couple games that are live right now.
Explode was asking us a few. You got anything else, Explode? What you got, man?
All right. Well, I think this is a good slate. We're gonna be back next week, and it's gonna be a blast. So just to recap a little bit of some of our plays, you're on the Bucks -8.5. That's off to a great start. You were also on the Pistons on the money line, so they're hanging in tight right now. You like the Spurs -4.5. And I have Wemby over 24.5 points. Those are both seeming to be tracking. Edey over 18.5 PR. We've got the Philly team total over 109.5. We have Jokic over 10.5 assists or 11.5 assists. The Thunder -12. Hartenstein over 11.5 rebounds and a double-double, and then also Sabonis under 18.5 points. This has been a great time, Watts. Appreciate you obviously taking the time to be on here with us. You got anything for the people before we get everybody out of here?
No, man. No, it's good to be back. I'm sorry I missed last week, but it sounds like you guys crushed. So, yeah. Producer Alec is mentioning we are going to be switching to Thursdays starting next week. So next week is going to be no more Wednesday coast to coast. We're doing Thursday, a little bit smaller slate. We can kind of get more in depth into those plays and maybe, kind of look at the weekend ahead type deal. But yeah, that's all I got. And
all right. No,
good to be back.
yeah, it'll be good moving forward. We'll also try to touch on some All-Star stuff next week, since that's kind of the way we're going to start the All-Star break after the Thursday slate. So we'll try to touch on a couple things All-Star related. But this has been a pleasure. Hope you guys enjoyed. For Andrew O'Connor-Watts, this is Joe Dellera. Thank you for joining Coast to Coast, and let's cash that.